Go ahead and call the Cumberland County Board of Commission FY26 budget public hearing and work session to order on June 5th of this special meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to hear from the citizens. This is citizens' opportunity to voice their thoughts, their opinions, give us input on this year's budget. So we look forward to hearing from the audience. And thank you all for being here. Government only works when our community is engaged. So we thank you for tonight, as well as the 6 different public engagements that we've had in the community, where the commissioners have gone out in the community and have heard from our citizens. So thank you again for being here. This time I'd like to call on Commissioner Tyson for the invocation and the pledge.
All who are able, please stand. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we praise and thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to come and do the people of Cumberland County's business. I pray that you would be in the midst of these dialogues and these discussions, and that this proceeding will be conducted in decency and order as we move forward with this budget process. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you again. And before we move forward, Vice Chairwoman Jones will be joining us online. I think she's coming on. So when she comes on, we'll make sure we announce her presence and her attendance at the meeting. And she's in the process of getting connected. So Madam Clerk, if you'll just let me know so we can make sure we have her present. At this time, I'll go ahead and call on County Manager Greer to explain the procedures for tonight's public hearing.
Yes, this is an opportunity for the public to discuss the 2026 County Manager's recommended budget. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make remarks until the time limit is attained. No time may be yielded to a speaker by another speaker. Speakers will be acknowledged by the board in which their names appear up on the sign-up sheet. Speakers will address the board from the lectern and begin their remarks by stating their name and address. The budget public hearing is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. Speakers will not discuss the matters regarding the candidacy of persons seeking public office. Speakers will be courteous in their language and presentation. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Written comments or supporting documents may be left with the clerk to the board.
Thank you, County Manager Greer. Madam Clerk, well, first I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have
We
tonight?
have 25 speakers.
All right. We will go ahead and move forward with those 25. As I've said before, this is the people's opportunity to speak, so we'll give you that opportunity to do that. Madam Clerk, please call the first speaker.
Charles Houston.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Minister Charles Benjamin Houston. I am an 18-year veteran of the United States Army, and I have been living in Fayetteville off and on since 2006, as per deployments or whatever the case may be. Thank you all very much for this opportunity, and as has been stated before, it is when we are allowed, it's when we are able to engage with our local leadership as constituents. It's when we make things happen and truly have that common unity, which is the essence of community. I posed 2 questions on today when it comes to the budget. My first being, we all know that recently the Salvation Army Pathway of Hope Emergency Shelter faced closing down. I know that it has now been, is still being able to sustain and house those 26 individuals that had been there. And there are some things going forward, but I wanted it to be clear, what is the city's budget, or how has that been altered or changed in order to ensure that we are able to keep that Salvation Army open for the foreseeable future, not just in the short term, but in the long term? That was my first question that I wanted to pose for the upcoming budget. My second, if I may, and I am also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And Mr. Divya, I've had the opportunity of working and serving with you in the community, such as for the turkey handouts, the cooking, and everything such as that. And as I stated before, I am a minister. I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, but my church is in Rayford. We have had the recent curfew that has been placed by the mayor. We also know that well, at least I want to be sure, please correct me if I'm wrong, the IT budget for the Fayetteville Police Department is in the millions, but the poverty budget is not exactly there. I believe it is at zero. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. But we do know that poverty is at the heart of all crime. I understand that we need to address that with our teens. As a minister in the church, I want to do and make myself available to help in any way in which I can. But what are we doing as far as with the budget in order to ensure that we have late school programs, with Job Corps being affected from what the federal government is doing right now? We know that those are a lot of teens and homes that are affected by that. Again, at the heart of all crime is poverty. All politics is local. So I ask you all as leaders for those two things, how are we addressing the budget? Again, I am Charles Benjamin Houston. Thank you all very much. And
Thank
that's
you,
my
Mr.
time.
Houston. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the next speaker.
Ella Wren.
Good evening. My name is Ella Wren. I reside at 123 Judd Street here in Fayetteville, and it is my great pleasure to serve as the managing director for the Cape Fear Regional Theater. Nonprofits like CFRT are keenly aware that building a budget involves a lot of tough conversations, and we are here tonight to show you how your investment this budget cycle in CFRT's Act 2 capital expansion will support your strategic priorities and meet the needs of this community. Last year, CFRT served more than 62,000 people, including 20,000 children and youth. This makes us among the 4 largest producing theaters in the state of North Carolina. Our staff of 16 builds the sets and costumes, hangs the lights and speakers, and handles the administrative responsibilities for every show, all of which are produced with Cumberland County residents specifically in mind. CFRT completed Act 1 of our capital campaign and renovation in 2021, and that $1 million comprehensive remodel of the interior of the theater auditorium is fully paid for and was funded with no public support at all. Our current request for your support of Act 2 is not new to you. The county first voiced their support of this project back in August of 21 when we presented, and then Commissioner Boos made a motion to issue a letter of support to the state delegation. Subsequently, Commissioner Adams wrote a letter of support for our application for congressionally directed spending from Senator Tillis's office, and Vice Chairwoman Jones championed this project in May of last year as part of the last budget development. Today, 72% of the funds needed to make this building a reality are committed, and with the city and state already invested in this transformative project, along with more than 400 members of our community, it is critical to the project's timing and success that CFRT's Act 2 be included in the FY26 county budget. We are requesting a one-time investment of $3.5 million to be paid over 4 years, which breaks down to $875,000 a year. This project directly supports your strategic priority of providing cultural and recreational activities, as well as smart investments for smart growth, because this is a one-time investment for a state-of-the-art facility for which the county will bear no further responsibility for maintaining. Construction is already underway, and we project that we will impact 70,000 people in our first year alone, and only continue to grow after that, since every space we are adding to the facility is income generating. At a time when funding for the arts is increasingly uncertain, the addition of more income-generating spaces will ensure that CFRT's tickets, which cost between $19 and $40, continue to be accessible to everyone in our magnificently diverse community. We are grateful for all your hard work and service to our county. With your support, Act 2 will be 87% funded, and we will be able to raise the remaining funds by the time the building is scheduled to reopen. CFRT is an institution with an exceptional 63-year track record, and we are grateful for your consideration and support of the arts.
Thank you, Ms. Wren. Also, before we move to the next speaker, I just want to acknowledge Vice Chairwoman Jones is with us online. Vice Chairwoman?
Yes, I'm here. Hello,
Okay.
Chairman and the rest of the board. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairwoman. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Mary Kay Burke.
Hi, my name is Mary Kate Burke, and I reside at 2348 Rolling Hill Road, and I am honored to speak to the commissioners today as the Artistic Director of the Cape Fear Regional Theater. CFRT produces main stage performances that draw audiences from all 100 counties of North Carolina. And we have robust education and outreach programs that collaborate with the Friendship House, Rick's Place, the Delta Sigma Thetas, the AKAs, the Junior League, the library system, and the Cumberland County School System, just to name a few. CFRT isn't just putting on plays, it's building futures. In recent years, over 12 alumni have gone on to perform on Broadway or in national tours, including the Grammy Award-winning Natasha Yvette Williams, Broadway's Des Duran, and Molly Griggs, who is also starring in a Shonda Rhimes Netflix series, The Residents, and the list goes on and on. I honestly don't know of another county our size that has launched as many illustrious careers. Now, this kind of success doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from a whole lot of hard work by the artists, the team behind them, and access to high caliber arts right here in Cumberland County. But we aren't just a launch pad for stars. We are a home where thousands of kids and their families find their voice, their confidence, and their community. CFRT is a stage for all. From first-time performers to future professionals, everyone belongs here. Our enrollment for classes has grown by 89% over the past 5 years. And our summer camps don't just keep kids busy. We're stopping the summer slide by keeping kids reading and growing in a screen-free environment while schools are out. These camps consistently sell out, and due to space constraints, last summer alone, we had to turn away over 116 youth. And let's talk about mental health, because the arts are not just extracurricular, they are essential. They reduce anxiety, they build emotional resilience, and when these kids come through our doors, they're not just learning to act, they're learning to show up for each other. The arts give them the tools to understand themselves and to face whatever life throws at them, and these kind of life skills are necessary. This work isn't just arts, it is public health. But don't take my word for it. In a few minutes, you will hear from CFRT alumni Lana Drawhorn. Lana was the student body president of Cumberland International Early College High School, where she graduated magna cum laude. She is a 3-time national qualifier in dramatic interpretation in the National Speech League. She walked into her theater at the age of 8. She learned, she trained, and now she's off to North Carolina School of the Arts, which is ranked 3rd in the world for theater. She earned her place with joy and undeniable excellence, and that is what our theater does. We don't just make art, we facilitate dreams. Inspiration lives here. So if you're wondering whether supporting our funding request matters, I will tell you right now it does. Because when you fund this theater, you're not just building a building, you are building the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Madam Clerk, we call the next speaker?
Lana Drawhorn.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lana Drawhorn, and I reside at 2109 Sapona Road. I've come here today to talk about the Cape Regional Theater's request for funding. I'm not here to talk about numbers, but I'm here to talk about the impact that the Cape Regional Theater has had on my life. As a child, I never saw performers that looked like me on television. It wasn't until I saw The Wiz at the Cape Regional Theater where I saw the lead character, Dorothy, being betrayed by a black woman. And I realized I have to do that. Growing up, I always loved singing and dancing and had a flair for the dramatic, and my mom was always subject to random outbursts of songs and the sole audience member of all my dance performances. It wasn't until the year 2021 where I was able to finally put all of my creative energy into theater, when I participated in CFRT's summer camp production of The Little Mermaid. Before the camp had begun, I told myself that I would absolutely get the role of Ursula. So I would go around the house singing, and trying to embody the evil octopus the best that I could. I indeed landed the role, and I remember how incredible it felt to be good at something. The summer camp forever changed the course of my life, as the things that had once seemed impossible for someone like me became within reach. The next time that I was involved at CFRT was a few months later, and I got a call from my mom asking if I wanted to audition for The Color Purple. I was beyond excited and said yes. When I arrived at the theater to audition, the director, who was going to be the co-director of the upcoming Broadway production of the stage adaptation of Jingle Jangle, and after I finished singing my song, I gathered my things and was about to exit when all of a sudden I heard, "Can you come in for rehearsal tomorrow?" And I said, "Are you serious?" Yeah. And from then on, I've participated, in multiple main stage productions at the Cape Regional Theater, including The Addams Family, choreographed by Emmy Award winner Tice Diorio. Being able to meet so many different people who share the same love for theater and performing that I do has forever changed my life. I've met people that have supported me, even in matters that didn't concern the show. I've learned that I deserve to take up space, and if I get into a room, I deserve to be there. I recently applied to the University of North Carolina School of Arts, which is ranked number 3 in the world for drama, and I asked Mr. Mark for a letter of recommendation. During the audition process at UNCSA, there's also an interview that follows immediately. And when speaking to the Dean of Admission and the Dean of the school, they told me to thank the person that wrote my letter of recommendation because it was beautiful. I would also later find out that Ms. Mary Kate Burke had helped me by sending an email and vouching for me as a student. I heavily credit my admission to that university to those two people. However, it's not just their words that helped me get into the school, it was their action and their team's devotion to encouraging and empowering. Theater, though it may not be for everyone, is art, and art changes the world. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of children that are impacted and whose lives are forever changed. I still get comments from people who've seen me perform and saying that I've inspired them, or that the kids who came at a student matinee are still raving about the show. The Cape Regional Theater is an important part of the foundation for children and growing, not just academically, but as a person. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Strawhorn. And thank you for bringing us a little music tonight as well. Madam Clerk, will you read the next speaker?
Andrew Ridgway. Andrew Ridgway.
Madam Clerk, please read the next speaker.
Sheila Cuffey.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board of Commissioners. Most of you know me. I'm Sheila Cuffey, 6619 Brandon Way, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I am the chairwoman of Cumberland County Communicare, 109 Bradford Avenue, 28301. On April 14th, I filed an appeal to the county manager concerning the fiscal year 26 JCPC funding recommendations, requesting the restoration of Communicare funding. When that appeal was unfruitful, I appealed to the chairman of the commission on May 8th. The $86,549 loss in JCPC funding imposes a considerable financial setback for our agency in terms of our ability to meet local match requirements and increasing demand for services. Further, the Board of Commissioners approved the resolution for intent to lease at your May 19th meeting to increase our lease by 250% to a total annual rate of $108,705. Yet, 3 days later, on May 22nd, you all graciously reduced the lease of another nonprofit to a total annual rate of $1. I am concerned that a $250 lease increase, along with an $86,549 reduction in funding, is disparate treatment of Communicare at the tune of a $153,244 loss. The loss will have a negative impact on our programs, creating a loss of support for potentially up to 892 clients. This would be catastrophic to the most vulnerable in our community, our youth, the unhoused, and those with mental challenges. This year alone, we have served 892 clients, including 540 youth, and completed 292 clinical assessments on adolescents. The JCPC reduced funding to the most utilized programs serving 70% of the JCPC population, and no quality, compliance, or other deficiencies were provided to justify that reduction. Communicare has been a trusted partner of Cumberland County government since 1998, when the county commissioners and management received a Communities That Care grant to establish critical behavior health services through our agency. For nearly 3 decades, CommuniCare has served as a safety net provider, delivering court-mandated services to indigent and system-involved individuals, responsibilities that would otherwise belong to the county government. On behalf of CommuniCare and this board, I ask that you reconsider the lease as it has not been published and restoration of the $86,000. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cuffey. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Christian Mosley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Christian Mosley. I'm not necessarily a representative of any organization or anything of that sort. I'm just here as a concerned citizen, a young person that grew up here in the city, and a father and a husband. I wanted to just read a quick piece of information because I've been interested in trying to get some of this information in Cumberland County, in the city of Fayetteville, and for whatever reason, I haven't been able to find it specifically for us. But I wanted to read this. It is a post that comes from the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. ADOS is an acronym for American Descendants of Slavery. They're a grassroots organization. And they posted something recently in regards to the economic situation that a lot of young people are facing, specifically millennials and Gen Z. And the question is the American dream out of our reach at this point? And I ask this because according to a 2025 report done by the NC Budget and Tax Center, a single family, just 2 adults and 1 child, would need to make a combined household income of $88,700 to live comfortably, and to live comfortably with a small financial cushion for emergencies. We're also not talking about the fact that there has been an increase in the housing situation that we have here in the state, which has also been very apparent here in the city of Fayetteville. As a homeowner myself, I've definitely seen an increase in the taxes that we're paying as we're seeing the values of those homes go up. Now, as far as equity is concerned, that is great, but as far as living day to day, that has made it extremely, extremely hard for just regular, everyday citizens that do not have wealth, that will not be inheriting wealth, probably at any point in their lives. We're in the middle of the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the nation, and I know folks that I'm growing up with that do have parents and grandparents that are endowing them with tens of thousands of dollars. These are not super rich millionaires. These are your average, everyday, middle-class Americans. And I, too, was also raised as a middle-class child, but with black families having an almost 50% rate of downward economic mobility, this means that I probably don't have a shot anyway. The average or the median house cost in the state of North Carolina is about $376,000. So my ask is I'm continuing to mull over what it is that I have to live with. Just yesterday, I was outside with my 2-year-old son and saw 2 young men that look just like me talking about their plan to steal chips from the local grocery store. I've heard about a lot of great programs that have talked about the things that we need, and so I'm hoping that the least of these in the county will start being looked after, because if they're stealing chips, there's no telling what else they're willing to do to survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. And before you leave, can you give us your address real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 5315 Chesapeake Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Madam Clerk, please call the next speaker.
Jason Rivera.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good evening. Good evening.
My name is Jason Rivera de la Cruz.
You can pull it up.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
My name is Jason Rivera de la Cruz. I reside at 5102 Cypress Road. I'm not here on behalf of anybody either. I'm just here as a citizen. I was born and raised here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm 23 years old. And I just wanted to use my time and say that after looking at the budget and stuff, I would like to see like more go towards like a cybersecurity type area. I feel like here in North Carolina, we're growing a lot, and cyber is something important that I feel like it would benefit a lot of people here. And me currently studying in that position, I want to see myself being able to stay in my hometown and get a job here in the future. So I also see other counties and states taking part in improving their budget and cybersecurity, so I feel like it will benefit us a lot to protect our citizens and what we have here in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De La Cruz. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Roberto Thomas.
Hello, my name is Roberto Thomas, Roberto Lee Thomas III. I reside at 1915 Fort Bragg Road, Apartment B. I'm here on behalf of CommuniCare, the PATH program, and also those that are homeless and have mental problems. I'm one of the success stories. I've had my apartment for the last 3.5 years, all because of people who took out the time, like Tamara and all these good people here who took out the time to invest in me. You know, it's very important, you know, that we keep investing in our future, because there's a lot of people out there that's lost. And, you know, I was homeless for 20 years, you know, and it wasn't by choice. It was something that I was brought up with, you know, when I was abandoned at 14 years old in St. Clair County, you know. But that followed me all my life, you know, and my mentality has never been right, but they helped me to get my mentality right so I can keep a place. You know, and they was telling me about this budget thing where they're being hurt, and to me in my mind, I don't understand that when they're helping people. You know, when you're helping people, you got to keep helping them. And you know, and I'm a success story, and there's a few more success stories. There's a lot of success stories if you just stop talking about a budget and just open up your eyes to, you know, to what's really going on, because there's always a side that we're not seeing, you know. But anyways, you know, I'm just grateful to God that, you know, they took out the time to help a person like me, you know, because they didn't have to. And then I'm seeing all these homeless places being shut down here in Fayetteville, and that's kind of sad. It's really kind of sad, you know, because there's a lot of people that, like my man was saying a minute ago, they stealing bags of chips. You know, what else could they be doing, you know? But we're the ones that can help. You know, I'm becoming a part of a society now where I'm using this instead of my other thinking, you understand? So I'm just grateful for CommuniCare and the PATH program for what they did for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next speaker?
Destiny Greer. Destiny Greer.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the next speaker.
Jason McDonald. Jason McDonald.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the next speaker.
Daishina Gordon.
Really short. Everybody can hear me? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, this is my first time doing this, okay?
You're fine, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, hello. My name is Daishiana Gordon. It's Daishiana, okay? And I'm here today, as many other people, to give a small speech on my support of what CommuniCare has done for me in my lifetime. When I was just 20 years old, CommuniCare was there for my 3 children and I when we went through a rough patch in our lives. They gave to us was a support of therapy at the time when we needed it the most, and the care of guiding us to other programs for us young parents of parenting classes to help us guide us through our journeys. I am now 26 years old, and still to this day, CommuniCare finds in their heart to stay in communication with my family and I to see how their program has continued to guide us through our life. How I see it, I would not have become the person I am, as well of having the beautiful family I have today, if it wasn't for CommuniCare. So in conclusion, I believe the increase of 50% of CommuniCare rent should not take place, as well as cutting their budgets on the programs that they have provided to us to make a difference in our lives. I would like to say thank you to Communicare for the service you continue to do for Cumberland County. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon. Ms. Gordon, can you just give us your address real quick?
Oh, yes, I do apologize.
That's okay.
It's 209 Tiffany Court, Fayetteville, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Madam Clerk, if you will call the next speaker.
Jason Hunter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jason Hunter. I'm the Chief Court Counsel for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. I'm also a longtime resident of Cumberland County. I live at 3011 Ludgate Trail. I'm standing here tonight, this evening, to show my support for Cumberland County Communicare. Communicare has been a longtime partner of the local Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. They have worked with undisciplined and court-involved youth for over 25 years. Communicare provides not only mental health assessment and evaluation recommendations to the courts, but a whole array of services that includes crisis stabilization, therapy, counseling, and mentorship. The Court Counselor's Office relies on Communicare to help meet the complex needs of the families here in Cumberland County. I simply ask that during the budget negotiations to please remember the importance of having Communicare, a certified evidence-based practicing agency in the community, helping families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Lizette Rodriguez.
Hello, Lisette Rodriguez, 1701 Cherokee Drive. I'm a Fayetteville native, born and raised. I'm also the Fayetteville organizer for a nonpartisan voting rights organization called Common Cause North Carolina. We focus on holding power accountable by advocating for fair voting maps, courts, and elections. And I'm here to speak in support of the county's proposed 9% funding increase for our local Board of Elections. In 2022, the nonprofit NC Budget and Tax Center did a report that found Cumberland County ranked 77th out of 83 counties for the amount spent per voter. And at the time, Cumberland only spent $7.31 per voter compared to the average of $17.10. And as you know, sufficient elections funding is required for early voting sites, polling place supplies, our election staff and workers, voter ID implementation. And this past election, we saw that local news outlets were reporting on the staffing shortages at our Board of Elections. We also saw our Board of Elections workers working long hours, dealing with the repercussions and the implementation of the new voter ID laws, and recounting the county commissioner races and our state Supreme Court races due to Jefferson Griffin's attempt to throw away votes. So all that to say, this money is sorely needed. I'm glad to see the county taking steps to support our Board of Elections and its staff, which will ensure that we have free and fair elections. And as a side note, and this is me putting my citizen hat on and not Common Cause hat on, I wanted to share a vision, an idea for the grave of the downtown event center space. So close your eyes, imagine a public park filled with green space and native plants and art installations. We technically have a park downtown, but it's just a water fountain. And there's nothing to do. So there could be interactive kids areas, a fenced in dog park, benches and tables for socializing, eating foods from local businesses, and it could actually make the downtown feel like an actual social district, which is the whole point of the city legalizing the whole to-go alcohol situation. There could even be a small stage for live music and entertainment. This weekend I visited Morganton, North Carolina. They have a population of 16,000 people, and they have a stage where they had a regional act, and I'm actually also a music manager. I've been doing that for the past 6 years, and not every artist can play a large venue like Festival Park, and there is a need for smaller music venues for local acts, regional acts, to get their foot in the door. So that is my proposal for that space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the next speaker.
Sarah Halleck.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Sarah Halleck. I'm the Executive Director of Cumberland County Communicare. I reside at 414 Thorncliffe Drive. In 1998, the Board of Commissioners in Cumberland County and county management created a concept of a one-stop shopping center for adolescents, adults, and their families to navigate the complex behavioral health system. Since then, we have grown exponentially to meet the unique needs in this community. Cumberland County has the highest juvenile crime rate per capita in North Carolina. In fact, 52% of the serious violent crimes committed in our community are done so by juveniles between the ages of 16 and 18 years of age. We're not just another provider in the community. Communicare has been an integral part of Cumberland County's safety net for 3 decades. We have been relied upon by courts, agencies, the county, law enforcement, and others to provide services, a comprehensive outpatient services, domestic violence interventions. We conduct emergency assessments for foster care children who have been admitted to emergency rooms. We provide tailored care management and family-based crisis services. We deliver court-mandated services. We're a trusted partner with family court, juvenile probation, family drug treatment court, and our Worth Human Trafficking Court. This year, we've helped 30 homeless adults with mental illness transition from the streets to permanent housing. 84% of our budget goes directly to staff direct services. The budget reduction that we face will create system-wide ripple effects. We are the only clinical JCPC program in this community. Annually, we always serve 70% of the local JCPC population. We've never had any compliance, quality, monitoring, or program issues noted. It simply does not make good sense to arbitrarily eliminate $86,549 from the county's most utilized program. And I will say the county's most long-standing program. We are fully accredited across services. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Tina McKinney.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
I'm short. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
good. My name is Tina McKinney, and I am here to speak on part of Communicare. Excuse me. I'm here to speak for those who do not or who are unable to speak for themselves. I apologize.
You're fine, ma'am. Take your time.
Some years ago, I sat in my house pretty much rotting away because I had a very difficult life. It was because of Communicare that I was able to receive resources that helped me with my child, that helped me be brave enough to go to the doctor, to seek the proper help that I needed, and to go back to school. Today I stand before you, thank you, as a student of Fayetteville State University. I am in my junior year. I am working on becoming a psychologist to the deaf community because they are forgotten. And it's because of Communicare and the resources and the encouragement that they provided for me. There are so many voices that cannot speak for themselves, and Communicare helps them, the homeless, foster children. At the beginning of this meeting, you guys prayed. Something Christians are supposed to do, are supposed to look out for those who cannot look out for themselves. Something they are supposed to do is to provide for those who cannot provide for themselves. It is your jobs as leaders of this community to provide for those who cannot provide for themselves. CommuniCare is a resource that helps our community. It helps the homeless. It helps foster children. It helps people that are mentally unstable or unwell. To take away that resource would be to take away medical care, encouragement for people like me to go back to school, children's care. As Christians and as members of this society, it is your job to look out for those who cannot look out for themselves. And I encourage you to please do so. It is our job as well members of our community to look out for those who cannot look out for themselves. And I think we all are failing miserably. And we need to look within and do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker, please?
Naisha Fleming. Naisha Fleming.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Jennifer Taylor.
Okay, so I'm a little nervous.
You'll be fine, ma'am.
Didn't help that everybody else's before me made me a little emotional. So okay.
Move your mic down just a little bit to you.
Okay.
There you go.
So my name is Jennifer Taylor. I reside at 820 Stamford Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Myself and my family have been involved with CommuniCare due to their services. We have benefited greatly and have been blessed in our family's darkest times. For example, with my eldest daughter, she was being bullied in school, and we learned that she started cutting herself and she attempted suicide. We moved here from Maryland because she was sexually abused with my youngest daughter. So we fled because we got no help there because we were on Medicaid. They didn't help in the area that we were. So I was told there's more programs here. Every program that we tried, they weren't consistent. Therapists weren't consistent. They didn't check in. I would call. She would be switched around. So one day I had Michelle kept calling my phone. I was like, I'm tired. My daughter didn't want to do it anymore. But she kept calling. She kept calling. She emailed. I was like, who is this lady? I finally called back. She bothered me. I finally called back. And she talked to my daughter, and my daughter said, I like her. And we talked about the things my daughter was interested in. We talked about the things that triggered my daughter. Because I didn't know until we pushed my daughter to go to homecoming, she had cuts up her arm, her legs. And we knew my daughter liked art, but Michelle connected her with things in the community to get her more involved in art and the things that she loved. And it just helped her to see my daughter smile more, to look at herself in the mirror and think that she was beautiful, not what the kids were saying. We got her into a school that she liked. So we were also able, through CommuniCare, I'm so sorry, to help her with battling the depression and bullying. We have her connected back to her original therapist that we got her here with, which is an awesome woman. And we also have we work on skills to build on stronger family communication so that when she's triggered, she'll come to me and her father and tell us, I'm triggered. She has a calendar to count down how many days she's not, that she was triggered, but she hasn't cut herself, even though she's thought about it. So that's very important. The most recent was when Smoky Bones closed down abruptly. The day before Easter, they told him it was closing down. I told my husband that, and we didn't know what we were going to do because I had to stop working December 31st because of neuropathy, and I have really bad triggering in my neck and my hands. And so I turned to Michelle. I didn't know where else to turn. Like I said, I'm not from here. I don't know what resources. And they helped us with 2 months worth of rent and the electricity. So when I say, do I have a moment? No, I'm done.
Yes. Go ahead. Finish your statement.
So when I want to say they helped us with that, and so I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to urge the Board of Commissioners to reconsider the 250% rent increase and other budget cuts so that children, adults, and families do not miss out on these services because they're so important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Felicia McPherson.
Good afternoon, commissioners, county staff, and everybody that's here. I am Felicia McPherson, and I reside at 1428 Rough Rider Lane in Parkton. Okay, I'm here in support of not having a 250% rent increase for Communicare. I'm so nervous.
It's okay, ma'am. Just take your time.
I am a survivor. I've got a mental health diagnosis, and I'm also a burn survivor. And I am a returning citizen. All of that wrapped up into recovery, survival, and support. I am currently serving on the NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, State Executive Board. I'm the Peer Leadership Council. I serve NAMI, Cumberland, and Harnett County, and I am a North Carolina licensed mental health counselor that utilizes ComCare services with all the members that I serve, my family, my sister, my husband, many children in my family receive necessary services from ComCare. Our NAMI office is in this building. Ms. Sarah personally makes sure that NAMI, Cumberland, Harnett, and Lee County has space for our free support groups, our mental health education, our family-to-family, our peer-to-peer. Guys, we need it. I would not be here. I would not have survived. I would not have recovered. I'm recovering daily. I'm a tax-paying citizen now after doing over a decade in the Department of Correction. I'm in Department of Correction. And again, I just want to be the living proof that the services provided, the crisis services that provided, the wraparound services provided are needed. I am asking for you, I'm urging you, and I'm thanking you, Board of Commissioners, and please reconsider the $250% increase and other budget cuts for children, adults like me, my family. Don't miss out on these services that are so needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McPherson. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker, please?
Hannah Carroll.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Hannah Carroll, and I'm the affiliate president of NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and here in Cumberland County, and I reside at 3220 Gillespie Street. I am here tonight, like so many others, to speak on behalf of Communicare because of the difference that they have made in this community. As you've already heard here tonight about how gun violence and other crimes rapid this area, and I'm here to say that an ounce of prevention or a pound of cure, an ounce of prevention or a pound of intervention is a lot more than a pound of crises. And that's where we're heading if we have the cuts and the services that are offered by CommuniCare to at-risk students, at-risk families, the services that are offered to people like me. I have a daughter that is severely mentally ill and was told by medical staff, some of the best, that she would never live outside of an institution. But today she lives in her own apartment. Today she drives her own car, and she has her own job because of services that are rendered. My daughter right now receives service from CommuniCare under the Tailored Care Management Program. And without that, my daughter's life would be in a tumult. So I'm here tonight to tell you the intervention, the prevention is CommuniCare. The crises for this city is going to increase if the cuts are made. So I'm here to urge you with all of my heart to please reconsider the 250% increase in rent and any other cuts that are being made to CommuniCare. Because when you have a record like CommuniCare in a city like this, you should get a reconsideration. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. Madam Clerk, please call the next speaker.
Daryl Sansberry.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Daryl Sansberry that resides at 6555 Muscat Road. I work with CommuniCare and provide services for the homeless, with adults with mental illness, and that we secure permanent housing. We're up early in the morning, late at night, finding those individuals that are under the bridges, in the woods, by the railroad tracks, etc. You know, we provide resources and support this year, and we have successfully placed over 30 individuals into permanent housing. We are a critical community link to the area agency that support the homeless population. When Tent City off of Gillespie Street was taking place and we had to vacate those individuals, we were there. When we had to relocate all the individuals on Person Street Bridge, we were there. When they closed the Regency Inn recently, we were there. With the support, we work across agency to connect homeless individuals to food treatments, medical, transportation, and benefit supports. A 250% increase in our rent, plus a large cut in the JCPC allocation will hurt the vulnerable population we serve. I'm asking you to reconsider these decisions so that our community can continue to access counseling, housing, care management, family-based crisis, trauma, and other support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sansberry. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next speaker?
Kayla Patton.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Kayla Patton. I reside at 3510 Pickerel Street. And now I'm going to start with my speech. Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Kayla Patton. I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, County of Cumberland. I hope everyone is having a great day. I would like to thank every one of you for giving me the chance to speak on my services at CommuniCare. First, I would like to give y'all a quick summary on what got me at CommuniCare. On August 28, 2024, I gave birth to my beautiful baby girl, Dayla. She was born and she tested positive for multiple substances. The Department of Social Services took all four of my children. When that happened, I felt like I lost my whole world, but in which I did. I was very depressed and I still battle with it at times. This journey has not been easy, but Communicare has helped me tremendously with their services to get me back on the right track. Without these services, I have no idea where I would be in this journey. The services that I have been involved in include anger management, intensive parenting class, substance abuse intensive outpatient program, and now I'm in substance abuse outpatient program, which is a step-down unit from the intensive program. With Communicare's help, I am now so much closer on getting my kids back. I appreciate the journey that I had to go through with Communicare, because without it, I don't know where I would be in this road to recovery. If Communicare were to have a 250% rate increase in other funding reproduction, this could have a negative effect on services in our community, services that are life-changing and rewarding. I ask that the board reconsider the rate increase and the cut in funding so others can have the same chance I have with the services at Communicare. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Patton. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next speaker?
Yvonne Smith. Yvonne Smith.
Madam Clerk, please call the next speaker.
Jessica Maynard.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jessica Maynard. I'm a lifetime resident of North Carolina and a resident of Fayetteville since 2012. Sorry, I can't really
It's okay.
breathe.
Just take your
I
time.
reside at 3632 Haas Street, Lot E. I'm here in support of Communicare and to represent the people that are so often overlooked, the homeless and mentally struggling. I'm a current client at Cumberland County Communicare, a mental health support facility, beginning my services last March. When I began my services, I was homeless, sleeping in 24/7 laundromat with my 2-year-old son. Due to homelessness, I lost him to DSS and sank into struggling with an opiate addiction, as well as being unmedicated bipolar type 2. I would like to call attention to the mental health crisis, not only within Cumberland County, but worldwide. Because of the support and resources I receive from Communicare, I'm now sober. I have a home, a vehicle, operate my own cleaning services, and been able to have a healthy, sober pregnancy. Not only did I receive therapy at Communicare, they've provided me with food when I was hungry, support me when I felt forgotten, and resources when I had none. I humbly ask our Board of Leaders to consider the utmost importance of mental health services as well as homelessness in our community, and how vital these services are, not just to better lives, but to save them. I'd like to thank Ms. Tamira, Ms. Sarah, Ms. Yvonne, and everyone else at Communicare, as well as you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maynard. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Tony Morris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tony Morris, and I reside at 5707 Danville Drive. I currently serve as a Communicare board member. I'm a licensed therapist with 16 years of experience working with children and families in Cumberland County. I've worked directly with children who depend on the types of services Communicare provides. I am here to give voice to their needs. The juvenile court system depends on behavioral health professionals to complete court-ordered evaluations, therapy, and intervention programs. Defunding the largest provider creates a gap the court cannot fill, and the child suffers the consequences. Communicare is not simply a community program. It is a critical link that keeps youth out of detention centers, emergency rooms, and residential facilities. Communicare also reduces contact with law enforcement. Our data shows that our programs have reduced new juvenile complaints by 99% in this year. During the year, Communicare has served more than 540 at-risk youth. Of these, 83% successfully completed the services. A reduction in our JCPC funds and a 250% increase in our lease rate will reduce CommuniCare's capacity to meet the demands that serves in our community, which has the highest per capita juvenile crime rate in the state. Reducing support for CommuniCare will lead to higher detention admissions, court referrals, probation caseloads, increase the dropout rates, and reduce reliance on public assistance. There is a behavioral health workforce shortfall. Cutting funding to the only provider with trained staff already in place only creates access issues. For critical behavioral health interventions, this is not the time to reduce capacity. It is time to reinforce it. I urge you not to look at these services as a line item, but as lifelines. These reductions are not just numbers. They are children, families, and futures. You have the opportunity to correct the course and stand with your community. Thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
There are no more speakers.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And at this time, unless there's any comments from commissioners, we're going to go ahead and move to our work session. Hearing no comments from our commissioners, County Manager, do you have anything else for us before we recess?
No, Chairman, there is nothing else.
Okay, we will go ahead and recess now to the 5th floor conference room, 564, to continue our budget work session. Thank you for your attendance. We're in recess. We'll go ahead. Okay. We'll come out of recess, and we are now we are upstairs in 5th floor, room 564. We'll continue on with our meeting in the budget work session. Vice Chairwoman, are you on the line with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, we'll go ahead and move forward. You should have the agenda in front of you with the items that we discussed last time. The agenda was sent out to you in advance of the meeting, so you have the items that we will cover. At this time, I will go ahead and turn it over to, for item 3, library from County Manager Greer.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. We have a PowerPoint. We'll follow the same format that we did at the last budget work session. Deborah Shaw, Budget and Performance Director, will lead us through the presentation and answer those questions. We'll start off with libraries, and I'll interject as needed, and staff and her staff also. When we get to the debt model, item 9, Robin Kuntz will present as well as she can, but we'll probably have to help her as much as possible. And I'd just like to say thank you, Robin, for coming in and doing this. Deborah.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
And Chairman. Welcome to our second work session of the FY26 recommended budget. During our previous session, we reviewed the following areas: general government, public safety, economic and physical development, and human services. This evening, I will continue with the remaining categories within the general fund and proceed to the other funds unless otherwise directed. This category includes the cultural and recreational category includes the library grants, and other cultural and recreational items. The library's program includes $419,000 from the North Carolina Library Programs Grant. This state aid supports the purchase of library materials, shelving, programming supplies, and other related resources. Library grants. The library grants reflects a modest decrease of $10,000 compared to the adopted budget. The year-end projection of a little over $511,000 for FY 2025 includes a reappropriation of approximately $225,000 for the purchase of a bookmobile. This was a one-time allocation of non-recurring state aid approved by the Board of County Commissioners on February the 5th of 2024. Again, this item has not been ordered, and it will probably be reappropriated into FY 2026. That will be brought back to the board in the August, September, or October timeframe. The other cultural and recreational items includes Vision Resource Center, Arts Council, Cape Fear Botanical Garden, and Airborne and Special Operations Museum. Again, this will be discussed in more detail later as part of the broader community funding conversations.
Commissioners, are there questions on the library portion? Commissioner Adams, you recognized?
No, Mr. Chairman, that was just because it's hard for me to follow. That was on page 40, so if you can give us the page, it makes it a little bit easier. I'm sorry.
I apologize.
No, that's my fault. I found it. I got up with it.
Okay. Capital outlay will be page 42 of the recommended budget.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the library, Commissioners? And Vice Chairwoman, just for protocol, when we're going through questions, if you'll just let us know if you have a question, and we'll recognize you that way.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and proceed with capital outlay.
The chart presented outlines the recommended capital outlay items included in the departmental budgets for FY 2026. These items are incorporated directly into the departmental budgets because they are each under a $100,000 threshold, with the exception of the tasers, which is part of a subscription-based contract. The taser subscriptions for the sheriff's office. The tasers are procured through a multi-year subscription contract that extends through 2027, covering November of 2025 and November of 2026. This agreement includes up to 320 new tasers, replacement of damaged units, old units are returned, holsters, charging docks, license, and training cartridges. The Sheriff's Office grants specialized equipment. The grants listed under unidentified equipment refers to equipment that cannot be purchased until required training is completed. Is there any other questions regarding capital outlay?
Commissioners, any questions on this portion? Hearing none, we will continue on.
Vehicles. The FY 2026 recommended budget includes funding the addition, replacement of 23 vehicles. These vehicles were prioritized based on assessments conducted by the Internal Services Manager. Key factors considered in the replacement decision includes employee safety, vehicle age, maintenance costs, mileage, and the overall useful life of the vehicles. The county manager requested and recommended 10 of these 23 vehicles in addition to Department of Social Services' original request. This will be the beginning of a fleet program for the Department of Social Services. Regarding the Sheriff's Office vehicles, a question may arise regarding the necessity of these vehicles given the recent approval of a separate replacement order for 26 vehicles. It's important to note that the current recommendation reflects the original vehicle replacement request, which was submitted prior to the approval of the recent vehicle order of 26 vehicles. Any other questions?
Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding that the manager's working on a comprehensive vehicle inventory and assessment, and I know that that's forthcoming. Are we going to expect to see that before we adopt fully this budget, or would it be after the adoption of the budget?
Same day, hopefully, earlier in the day, at the agenda session.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So have you had a chance to complete the preliminary review of that?
Yes.
And is there any comments based upon that review that could be germane in what we're discussing now?
Based on the requested actions that I will make on Thursday, this request will be the first tranche and an additional request moving forward after the fiscal year. I will say that it's going to be recommended that, and I met with the sheriff and we discussed this and agreed on this, the framework, that we get rid of some older cars, use the proceeds from those cars to buy new cars, set a limit of a mileage limit that they currently are at for their vehicles, and start evaluating and replacing those cars probably once at the budget, and this will be for all vehicles, but particularly the sheriff, once during the budget process, and then make another recommendation after the audit process, when we know what we ended with fund balance and things of that nature. And that would be all vehicles, because one of my concerns is not only the sheriff department and the vehicles that they have and they're outdated, and some of them being outdated, but also some of the vehicles that our employees have to provide services in. They're old in some respects, and I worry about their safety, and then I worry also about if they have to transport others and their safety in that. So, long story short, comprehensively, probably over the next 5 to 7 years, if approved by this board, we will replace almost, I would say 75% of the outdated vehicles for both the sheriff and other departments.
One more follow-up, Commissioner Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one more follow-up to that. When we review the allocation that you have here, some departments I see had requested vehicles that they didn't get, which I think would probably be natural. But then there were some departments that got more than what they requested. Can you kind of walk through that methodology for us?
I believe the only one that got more than we requested was DSS, correct?
Yes.
And that's the county manager's portion of the fleet.
First-hand experience with that and being concerned, we had just, as we were finalizing the budget, we had just provided vehicles for the sheriff. And I had talked with Social Services 2 years ago that when we got to this point, that we were trying to replace vehicles, and I wanted to start, since they don't need as many as they're recommended, and if I remember correctly, it's maybe 30 that they need. I want to try to go ahead and get half of them out of the way this year, and then probably half of them out of the way next fiscal year. Then there's some other things with that we have to buy. There's a particular software we need to use so we can monitor, make sure everybody's driving safely. But I grow concerned, both from the sheriff, I look at this as public safety too, DSS, and the sheriff. I worry about the vehicles and the life of the vehicles that they have. And both of those departments have to do a lot of driving in order to provide services to the community. There was 4, I think it was 4 if I remember correctly, let me see, with emergency management. I had some foresight that Gene was going to retire, and I kind of have I would like for the new person to select what they need and have those, and make sure we have the right selection. I don't want an outgoing person making determination for a person that's new and what their needs are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, you recognize.
And I was just, and I know people ask for it, but out of the health department, because they go out and do a lot of things out in the community, was that one of the departments, or as you move forward, to be able to look, especially with some of the new programs they have and things that they're moving on, some vehicles there. And I know you did the library, but at the library, they got a lot of vans, but there are, or a couple of vans, I don't know how many they have, but where our libraries are situated, sometimes a car is much more efficient than the van. They don't need that big space. So those are 2 departments I'd ask you to kind of look at, because I think those are, one, those vans are, the gas and everything else, and they don't need those big vehicles, but those libraries are just about all over the county. And so I just...
Can I have a little personal privilege? Health department would probably be starting in fiscal year 2027, I think. Ms. Phillips and I have talked about a program for libraries that includes a bookmobile. So we have talked about that, but we want to move that out a few years once we get everything going. So libraries and health department, we have talked about in the scope of vehicles, but there's a plan that goes forward for each fiscal year. And I'm sorry, Faith, I was trying to hold it in. Okay.
But she talked about the bookmobile.
Yeah.
Commissioner Adams, anything else?
No, I didn't get the call, so I'm good.
Any other commissioners? Real quick before we move on, I just want to make sure I understand. So the social services requested 12 vehicles and we're providing them 28.
We're providing them 14 this year, and then another probably 15 to 16 next year. And then that way they'll have, or it'll be recommended that they get 16 next year. And then they'll have enough where enough people can drive a vehicle on a rotating basis and won't have to use their own personal vehicles and limit the liability of the county.
Okay. And Commissioner Adams, did you have something?
Whenever you finish, Mr. Chairman, I just got one question.
Other question for the manager. When we look at our vehicle fleet, is there, forgive me, I don't know the policy off the top of my head, but is there any kind of policy to look at sustainability in EV?
Yes, but we would probably recommend right now hybrid. Go hybrid before we start going fully EV. I would say hybrid first and then EV. Because the larger concern is, although you don't have the gas costs, you have the electric costs, and then the replacement costs on the batteries is larger on the EV. Not that I'm concerned. Somebody bought a Tesla close to me recently. I tried to convince them not to. Try to convince them to get a Lexus, but they didn't listen to me.
That wasn't me, because I'm so
So I would say hybrid right now until we feel that we have the expertise to actually service and not have to send it out all the time.
So Mr. Manager, my question is more of a bigger, so is there a policy or a fleet strategy that we're moving to that? And if we're not, it's okay, I just haven't seen anything or...
We don't have a policy right now. I would say that as part of this, and what I plan to recommend on Thursday, that will be part of, we need to start evaluating it. Because again, the question becomes, do we have our own charging stations? Where do we strategically place those charging stations and things of that nature?
Charging station down, no, I'm just kidding. Commissioner Adams, you're recognized.
What about the health department?
We could have one downstairs too.
And I guess, is it that I guess our policy, what we do is give them to each department as to whether we can do a pool and they check them out for some of those smaller departments. And so when they need them, because they may not need them every day, we may want to look at doing a pool where we have them and then they can check them out, as opposed to giving them, the sheriff need theirs, DSS need theirs, but child support may not need theirs every day, or some of the other people may not need theirs over there. So we create a pool and not give them to a particular department.
Well, and I agree with that. If we had a centrally located spot where everybody was technically at, if child support was right where DSS and health was at, it would be a lot easier for them to always have a pool, I did, because what would probably happen is somebody would have to drive their car over to DSS and then leave their car and drive it, It's kind of inefficient. They can just drive their car go ahead and leave from their location. So those things we're going to have to evaluate as we move forward. But right now, we just want to make sure we have a good sound footing to start off with. In other places, we've had a pool, but they were all centrally located.
One last question, Mr. Clay. So I guess when these people use their cars, do we reimburse them for gas, mileage, insurance, and all of that? No?
No, not the insurance, but just say mileage.
Just the mileage that they drive.
Yeah, because the mileage
rate. Wear and
rate.
tear on their car. That's why I drive to the pool and get the car.
Well, the mileage rate it encompasses all of that.
Commissioner Adams,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm good.
Commissioners, anything else on vehicles?
85.
We give them federal now. Go ahead and move forward, Ms. Shaw.
Education. Cumberland County Schools requested $103.7 million for the FY 2026 budget. The recommended appropriation of $91.7 million was calculated using the established methodology of allocating 43.47% of the projected ad valorem tax collections. This amount results in an increase of approximately $2 million or 2.33% over the FY 25 adopted budget. Again, we're still waiting for appeals, so that figure could adjust once appeals go through, based on that methodology. I'm sorry, what?
No, go ahead. If we want to go through both, all FTCC and education.
The Fayetteville Tech Community College submitted a funding request of $16,250,000 for the FY 2026 budget, representing an increase of $781,400 over the FY 2025 adopted budget. The college's request included a 4% salary and benefits increase, 7 additional positions, and an increase in utility cost. The recommendation includes a 2% salary and benefits increase, funding for 87 current county-funded positions, including a $1,000 supplement per position as proposed in the governor's budget, and that was at the time that the recommended budget was being pulled together. Full funding for the requested utility increase of $138,735, and funding for 1 maintenance technician 2 position at $72,208. The total recommended appropriation of $15,866,037 reflects an increase of $397,437 over the FY 2025 adopted budget. Their capital will come through on the capital investment.
Commissioners, questions on education or FTCC? Okay, go ahead. Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did see that Jay Tolan is here with our Cumberland County School System, and if it would not be out of order, I would just ask the board if he could have a chance to provide any summary or supporting information for the Cumberland County School System proposed budget that's included in this document tonight.
We can do that if Mr. Tolan is minimal to that. What I'd like to do is get any other questions out before we ask him to come up. Okay. Is that all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? So, Ms. Shaw, can you walk through the school line and understanding there is an informal formula that we use to get to this dollar amount for the schools, understanding that the school board requested roughly 111 million, and we are at 91. So if we can walk through that formula and kind of a little bit of the background for color of how it's funded.
Okay. If you take our projected or our recommended ad valorem and motor vehicles of what's recommended, and then you take 43.47%, that is a formula that was established, I know it was before mediation. It was upheld when they went to mediation. I think there was a one-time little bit more additional funding that was given at that time. Even though there's no signed agreement, we have been using that methodology to this day. I cannot give the particulars because I was not part of the mediation.
And that formula is
43.47%.
And just for clarification, there's not a signed agreement for this funding formula. There's not legal standing for this funding formula. This has been a funding formula that has been in place to basically set a rate based on a percentage of our ad valorem motor vehicle.
Right, I believe it was presented by staff, and then it was taken to the board for that initial agreement. There was a signed agreement at one time, and then COVID happened, and there was some other, I think COVID happened and it just never got renewed.
And then, can you speak to the discontinuation of equalization?
Yes, because of the change in the sales tax methodology, that we held them harmless because we had the interlocal agreement with the municipalities, so that went away, but they will be gaining on the change of ad valorem through the 40 and 42, but it will be represented in the 106 fund. It will no longer be placed here.
So as another follow-up, the $111 million that was requested from the school board, those dollar amounts would all,
It's the current
I'll put it, all those buckets of that would be contained in this recommended 91.
91.
So we're giving them a reduction, we're funding roughly $10 million below their ask. Excuse me.
Yes, in order to fully fund their request, we would have had to recommend a tax rate above revenue neutral of 8.52 cents in order to give them 43.47% of the recommended our ad valorem taxes. So the recommended budget would have been approximately 65, it's close to 65 cent in the budget if I had fully funded their request.
Say that's 65 cent?
Yeah, it would have been about 65 cent. Let's say 56, 8. Yeah, 64, almost 64 cent. I can give it to you exactly.
Or we find $11 million.
It would be difficult to find $11 million outside of taking it out of fund balance or severely cutting county programs.
Okay. Commissioners, other questions before I continue? Commissioner Tyson?
Thank you. So I know earlier this year we were briefed on a comprehensive facility review that was done by our Cumberland County School System. I commended them on that brief. And kind of looking and comparing our school capital numbers, I'm on page 67.
We're not there yet.
Oh, you haven't gotten, we haven't gotten to that yet. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
We're
Chairman.
just dealing with the current expense at this point, which is
Okay.
inside the general fund.
I understand. I withdraw my question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Reserve it for later.
I'm going to stay on the education then. If we can ask Mr. Tolan if he would come up, and if he's done the analysis, I know we've had the budget been briefed. Like to understand what's impacted from the school standpoint if you're funded at the recommended budget that's been presented. Hopefully you've had time to review that. I'm putting you on the spot.
It's all right.
Can you just introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Jay Tolan, Associate Superintendent, Business Operations, Cumberland County Schools. I send greetings from our board and our superintendent. And really what I want to do is let's go back to that joint meeting we had in February. We had a lot of robust conversation about teacher supplements. Okay, and then what does that look like to be number one in the geographical area? We started with our region, which is 13 districts with our analysis, and then we dwindled it down to, I believe it was 7 or so that kind of touch us geographically. And so the number for that would be $11 million to make us the top district in that group, okay? And then so the ask is $14 million, and I'm using round numbers because we're kind of on the spot here. So the ask is $14 million over our previous year county appropriation, right? So 11.7 is for teachers, and then as the board passed the budget, the rest of it would go to classified staff to their supplement. So think about teacher assistants, bus drivers, child nutrition folks. Those are who we call our classified or our hourly people. So 11.7 to teachers, looking at the target of that first when you combine local and state supplements in the geographical region, and then also some for our classified, about $2 million for our classified employees in supplements. So we had about $17 million in inflationary pressure when you look at our budget, which is about $640 million. We had about $17 million of inflationary pressure. We cut 3.7 internally, and then we're using 14 million of our fund balance to balance the budget. So we committed to the Board of Education that any new money that we receive from you all would go straight to staff. And so as we have met formally, but I haven't presented to them formally about the manager's budget. So basically it's an 85-15 split between teachers and classified staff. So if the county increase was $2 million, then we would increase the teacher supplement 85% to $2 million, and another 15 would go to classified, because all new money is going straight to staff.
So, and I'll open it up to commissioners, but real quick, so to my original question, the $11 million difference will impact, you're telling me that would directly impact teacher supplements?
Absolutely. Teacher and classified supplements, absolutely. All new money from the county is going right back to the staff.
But as you look at the 111 million is what's requested.
I don't mean to be, I have 103,
okay,
but I'm not privy to y'all's documentation.
I'm probably getting 111 from somewhere else. So
Okay.
I'm sure you're accurate more than I am. So 103. So we're roughly, what is that?
It's $11 million, $12 million off.
Okay. Well, 91 million, 91.
103.
Okay. So that difference is made up of, will impact your budget by what? You're telling me teacher supplements.
That's right. Because all we heard it loud and clear from the board, teacher supplements. And
so if we fund at 91 million, you're telling me that the teacher supplements are going to remain where they are?
Well, they would go up, I mean, we have 3,000 certified staff, so it would go up incrementally, you know.
Okay. But Commissioner Adams, you recognize.
Thank you. And you know, I'm a big proponent of the teacher supplement, but I don't believe you can make it all up in 1 year, which is, y'all talking about a 16% increase on that, right? On the teacher supplement? Yeah, that's
it's on average.
137 is what your budget is, and that's an increase over last year, but you said most of this is going to go to teacher supplement, right?
All of the new money from the county will go to teachers or classified staff supplements.
So when's the last time the school board has given the supplement?
We give the supplement every year, so and not to interpret your question, but we increased the supplement last year by 1.5 million. So we try to do it incrementally ourselves, but we can't make a major dent without y'all's support. We just don't have a way to generate our own revenue.
I got that. So if we did that, what's that increase is what I'm trying to figure out.
To the teachers, to the particular teachers? You mean, or?
Yeah, well, I guess you got teachers and you got staff, but I'm just trying to, the question I guess I'm trying to get to is y'all you probably looked at like we did the surrounding areas of where we are trying to get to the top. My thing is, I don't know you can get to the top in 1 year as to whether you do it incremental. We didn't get when we did our compensation study, we didn't do it all in 1 year. So if you don't get all of that, so if I know what that increase is, you know, I can figure out where I might be. So what would that increase be? If you
on average,
give it to me later. I mean,
on average, the increase is, I'm making sure I'm reading this right, $2,200 per teacher on average.
Well, I'm talking about percentage-wise, because there's a whole lot of teachers. I can't do all that math, but
I'd have to get it to you on a relative basis. I have it in dollar figures.
So you said how much? 20?
So on average, and I don't mean to belabor this point, but every year of service you have, you get a different supplement, right? So let's just talk average. So on average, it would go up $2,200 per teacher.
That's new teachers and old teachers or just?
It's everybody, but they get different because, see, the state has been like, for the House budget next year, they're forecasted to get like a $8,000 raise where seasoned teachers, 1%, right? So our certified supplement goes the opposite. Our more experienced teachers get more money, beginning teachers get less.
How about the classified?
All right, so classified would go from 2% to 6%. 2% of their salary to 6% of their salary. And so you're right, I see what you're saying. Now, some counties pay a teacher supplement on a percentage. We don't pay it on a percentage. We pay it by years of service.
Okay, that was.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess, I'm putting.
Commissioner Tyson?
I don't know what I don't know.
So kind of as a follow-up, and Commissioner Adams, thank you for kind of opening this door. Page 21 of what you sent over to us for your proposed budget, I see you got a minimum, a middle, a max, and then your average.
Yes, sir.
For your supplements. The supplemental increase, and this may get kind of more to what Commissioner Adams was talking about, the $11,850,000, does that get us at the minimum, the middle, the average, or the max?
Okay, so this is just to illustrate a teacher and where they're at on their career path. So a minimum is a beginning teacher, a middle is a 15-year teacher, and a max is a 30-year teacher. And so this was the way we illustrate that. So a minimum teacher, beginning teacher, their supplement would go up $922. A 15-year teacher, their supplement would go up $3,000. A max teacher or 30-year teacher would go up $4,300.
That answers my question, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I correct one thing? I've heard 14 and I've heard 11 million, so I'll give you the number for both. If it's $14 million increase, it would be 8.5 cents on the recommended rate right now. That would take it to 64.49. If it's just 11 million, it would be 6.73 cents additional as a funding mechanism, and that would take it to 62.66 in order, based on the 43.47%, because what would have to happen is we would have to generate an additional approximately $32 million, depending, give or take, in order to give them 43.47% of that. Or, like I said, fund balance or cut county programs.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yeah, so Mr. Manager, help me understand, because I thought a penny on the tax rate was 3.8.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's 11, we go up 3.8, why would it be 6.7? Just
because we have to give them, whatever the gross amount is, we have to give them only 43.47% based on the funding mechanism that we've used and that was approved based on mediation.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may have a follow-up. So you're saying we would not be able to fund over and above what was approved during the mediation if we increase that amount? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. I will say, and nothing against the school board, but we went to mediation because of their concerns about funding. And if we go above that recommended funding mechanism that we've been using, we establish a new floor. And then if we don't go back on that, then we could create a new problem for us. And so based on that, unless there's some other agreement based on the commissioners, I use 43.47%. And have to back that up or gross that up in order to get that amount. Now, again, there's other, things you could do. Again, it sets a new floor, and then you end up having a different conversation moving forward.
One more follow-up, Commissioner Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess my question would be to Mr. Moorfield, if it was the board's desire to fund this, could we ask the school system if we could modify that agreement so that we wouldn't have to go up that amount to be able to get the funding to where it needed? Or would that not be a possibility based on that agreement?
No, I mean, you can certainly modify it. The parties can certainly modify the agreement. But there's not really an agreement in the sense of something that each party has signed that's the turmoil. It's just the formula that was devised in that mediation that we have stuck with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Patel. Thank you. So if it's not a formal agreement, like a contract is what I'm assuming, if we wanted to fund the 11 million, couldn't we just do it in addition to the formula that's utilized for?
That would be 3 cents
Right.
additional, so you would take the rate to about 58, and you would have to make a designation that anything above the 55.93 goes to schools. Similar that some other communities do with debt service and other things. They allocate it to debt service, or a penny on the tax rate goes to this, or libraries or things. And you will have to put it in a special fund for that purpose.
Commissioner Fairclough?
Did I understand you say that the 43.7% is based on the ad valorem tax rate applied to real estate and automobile? Is that correct?
Correct.
No commercial property? I mean, no...
all real estate, commercial, and personal.
No railroad ties and telephone poles?
Yeah, public service.
Public service, everything.
It's ad valorem and the motor vehicles.
Just ad valorem tax?
Yeah.
It's real, the personal, the public service, and the motor vehicles.
Okay, all of that. Okay. I misunderstood that. Thank you.
Mr. Moorfield, just to clarify, there is no agreement in place.
Not a binding agreement, no, sir.
Okay. So let me be clear, there is not a binding agreement in place. I understand the ceiling. When this budget was built, it was built off of that formula. So that's how we got to this number. I think it would have been helpful to have a budget workshop because there could have been some direction. And I think this board, when we came out, wanted to see how we could fund some of these supplements. At least that's what I heard when I came out of it. And so I guess we are funding it at this 91, we're funding some or any of the supplements.
All new money would go to staff. So if the $2 million using round math, we would.
But there is no new money because 91 is less than what you.
Well, no, we're new money over last year's appropriation.
Okay. So year over last year is approximately $2 million.
Yes, sir.
So $2 million would go to for teacher supplements. So we'd fund $2 million out of the requested 11, basically.
We requested 14.
14, I'm sorry. Commissioner Adams.
And I guess maybe, and you can do, we actually had to go into mediation because of the statute.
Yes.
And we signed documents coming out of mediation. So I guess the question to me is, did it expire, or before you say we don't have an agreement with mediation and signed it?
The mediation was for that year.
Okay.
And at that time, the formula was devised to accommodate what the school system would have gotten under the statutory formula.
Commissioner Adams, follow up.
And I guess, as we're looking at this and you're talking about that tax rate, that's before appeals, so it could change even because of the appeals.
We do have appeals factored into that. And
Okay, good.
Okay. Appeals, I think it's 2.4 billion that
7%. Anything else, Commissioner?
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else? I'd like to add, thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Appreciate it. So I'd like to add for our discussion and I know we'll get to scenarios, but I don't want to call it a parking lot, but a commissioner item for us to look at as we move is to give us options to bridge that 14 million gap at 100% and at 50%. By providing us scenarios that do not increase the tax rate. So it's not give us some of those scenarios back, what that would look like. Commissioner Adams.
And Mr. Chairman, and I heard that, but I may be willing to go a penny or two, so we can do something with that, with yours, what you did, but also if we use a penny tax or whatever, to be able to get that as one of those scenarios. We may not do that, but at least have that, what it would cost if, what it factors into, if that makes sense.
So in other words, so a third scenario would be, tell us what an increase, if we increased a penny on the tax rate, would go to.
Yeah.
Would that, let me ask, would that, in that scenario, would we dedicate it directly to schools only?
On which part? The
Oh,
increase?
if you did that,
If we, like, as I was saying previously, in certain jurisdictions, and I think Wake County just did it for libraries and schools, they raised the tax rate, but they dedicated it to a specific function or governmental project. And if we raise the tax rate 1 cent, we could say over the next 3 years, if they need $14 million, through one cent on the tax rate as proposed is $3,784,000 approximately. So what would happen is that would get them 1 year of 14. 2 would get them half of that. If not, then we would have to allocate fund balance or cut county programs or change the allocation of the ad valorem tax distribution. I really would, based on the number of critical programs that we have on the county side as far as mental health, sheriff deputies and things we're trying to do, I really wouldn't want to do that, but I would say if we adjusted the rate, outside of not adjusting the rate, dedicating 1 or 2 cents would be probably the best way to go.
and mine would be dedicated to that for the school system, kind of like what Wake County did. I saw what Wake County did. So that would be not as an easier sell to our citizens, but at least they know, people want to know where the money going. Then it's up to them to spend it correctly, but at least they know where it's going. That's all.
So you would like to see in a scenario a 1 cent dedicated tax and what that would equate to?
Yes, and that be used for the school.
Right, a dedicated tax.
And I'll bring back a mechanism by which we don't use the tax increase also.
With 2 scenarios, one at 50% of, and one at 100% of the $14 million. So one at $14 million and one at 7. So three takeaways. Commissioner Tyson and then Commissioner Fairclough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also like to see if we could accomplish that through our lapsed salary that we would have in our vacancies. I know I don't want to steal the thunder from when we get to the personnel section. I know Ms. Shaw was gracious enough to send me over the higher rates previously by department, but I just would like to see if that would be a possibility. If we're funding more positions than we're able to take on an annualized basis, see if there could be some difference made up there.
So if we can, when we get to the personnel part, I think we'll have a discussion around what that vacancy rate is, and then if there is a change in that vacancy rate that creates capacity, we'll have that dollar amount capacity, and that's what we'll kind of talk through and then decide, the manager or team can decide maybe where it's used, or we can direct where it's used. Is that fair enough?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Fairclough.
I want to keep one important constituency in mind as we go through this process, and that's the property taxpayer. We had some early information from the tax department about what our average increase for a single-family home was. How much? Do we have a feeling for how much that has?
It was 72%.
Say again, I'm sorry.
72%.
72, so it came down from 86.
This year was 86. I think the overall increase was 86, but it was actually 72. I got two. No.
It came down from 86 to 72, is that what, am I hearing you correctly?
It's right here in my message, hold on 1 second. I can tell you for sure.
The numbers just stick in my head are 60, it was 65 overall, but the single-family home was 86. That was the number, and I didn't know how much they came down. If any, I mean, well, some, obviously.
The overall was 86, that's all the different areas, but average was 72 for homes.
Was 72 for a single-family home, okay. So what I want to know is, would there be any interest among the board members as we go through those scenarios how each scenario would affect that average single-family homeowner. I'm just asking if the board would be interested in that information as we go. We're looking at how much each incremental change would affect the supplements and so forth. Would we be interested in the same incremental information for that average homeowner? And I'm asking the board members if they would be, just to see, I'm gauging the interest in that.
I'm fine with that. I think in the 3 scenarios we listed, the only one it would impact is the 1 cent because the other ones aren't affecting the tax rate. But I agree, so you'll see a grouping of any time we change the tax rate, we see it where it impacts.
Yeah, they'd be interested in information, because that's who we're going to hear from.
Okay. Staff, is that, county manager, is that?
We use Power BI. We can easily provide that information.
Great.
Or we can send it out in the
Yeah, we have it in a calculator where you can put in numbers and do it the whole thing.
We're not going to see Mr. Faircloth for 2 or 3 days.
As long as you have Power BI on your tablet.
Oh, yeah. We can get IT to put it on your tablets for us.
Good. Commissioners, anything else on the school side, on the, Cumberland County Public Schools? On the, Commissioner Tyson?
And just a clarification, Mr. Chairman, the capital portion of the school system's request will be done in a different portion?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion on the FTCC expense? Yes, sir. You're right.
I heard they recommended, or they asked for what, 4% increase in salaries?
Yes, sir.
And the budget recommended 2%?
We did 2%, and then at the time, the governor's bill had a $1,000 bonus, so we called over there and received the amount of county-funded positions, which was 87, so we also included 87,000 into that budget.
And what was the recommended COLA for county employees?
2.5.
2.5?
But there was no bonus.
Okay.
Commissioners, other questions? So, Michelle, help me understand why we would use the governor's budget. There's no such thing as a governor's budget.
At the time of the what was submitted, at the time, that's what we pulled up when we were recommended the budget.
So his recommendations to the General Assembly.
Yes.
So we didn't look at either one of the House or the Senate budgets?
No, because by the time this went to print,
Okay.
it was not
Okay.
there.
Okay. So another item that I'd like to look at is, without moving tax rate, provide a scenario that we move the FTCC current expense up $384,000 to $16.25 million. And then the last question is the other education line. Did you walk through that? And I was reading something when you did. What's contained in the other education line?
Where it's got 0,
Yes.
that is for the school system, when they were doing the interlocal agreement that we had, they were, we held harmless.
That's the equalization.
Equalization.
Okay. All right, any other questions on education? So we've got 3 scenarios on the education, and then one addition, another scenario on the FTCC. All right. Hearing nothing else. Any other questions, commissioners? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move forward.
Compensation and benefits.
Commissioners, I'll poll y'all. My plan was 2 hours. Can I just get? I will work. So my plan was 2 hours. As I briefed at the last meeting, I said we would. We said no. I said we would be 7 to 8 downstairs, and I said we would do 2 hours. I'm more than open. It just means we will continue to meet until we get through the budget. Our goal was to have one more session where we could have dialogue with the commissioners, and then hopefully go to a approval of the budget. But if we want to, compensation and benefits is going to potentially take a little bit, but if we want to move through this, I am flexible. I will stay as long as we can stay, but I think it's important we stay collectively.
I can't, I'm too old.
Can we get 15 more minutes? Can we walk through compensation?
You get ready to get into Veronica yesterday. That looked bad.
Okay, we'll take a recess and let you go to the bathroom then. So, board, let me just poll you. Do you want to continue, or do we want to break and come back at our next scheduled meeting, which is
Next Tuesday, June the 10th.
What she said?
I would ask, and y'all can give us some leeway. I know personnel and compensation will take a minute, but whether we could flip, and if some of these were quicker and get them on out the way.
None of them are quick.
Okay.
I mean, you got capital investment, debt model, special funds, and then we're going to talk about community funding, and none of that's going to be short. And I mean, y'all been through more county budgets than I have, but just looking at those items, it's going to take a while.
I guess if for staff, if you could give us your general questions on personnel and compensation, we can get prepared, and so we can lessen the load. I will, and let me preface something. I've heard something regarding vacancies and direction on that. 75% of our vacancies, our vacancy rate is about 18%. 75% of our vacancies are in three departments. DSS, Sheriff Department, and Public Health. Public Health being the shortest one with approximately 43 vacancies. And I may flip these two numbers, but the Sheriff, I think, is like 217, and DSS, the last time I checked, was about 115 individuals. All the other departments have 1, 2 to 3, no more than 5 no more than 5 vacancies. So if there's a reduction in, or if there's a thought, we would like, you can email it to us so we can calculate it up. The two departments that would take the most critical hit would be DSS and the Sheriff Department.
Commissioner Tyson, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Manager, let me ask you this. Because I understand that they do have a high percentage of vacancies, but in terms of our attrition rate on these, if I remember correctly, the last academy, the last Sheriff's Academy graduation that we attended, I believe there was 19 that graduated out of that academy. Okay, and then they've got 12 in the current academy. So, based on those numbers, what would you reasonably say would be the normal attrition rate that we're being able to hire those positions on an annualized basis?
Let me think about that, because the number of people who start in the academy are not the number that graduate. And then the number that actually graduate and stays with us, even if they sign the bonus, they may not stay a full year, they may stay 2 years. So so we kind of have people always, for lack of a better term, a revolving door. Same thing with social services. That's why those positions kind of say, although there's vacancies, and I will tell you, there has been that we have had discussions about trying to right-size those positions, but we get reimbursement for DSS 50%, and then the Sheriff, he's been doing everything he could to try to get people in detention center, get people on patrol. So we've left those positions there, although we know that there's a turnover attrition rate all the time, and it just depends on the different groups that graduate and how long people stay with both of those two departments.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, what I would request is that we ask the county manager to kind of review that and look at what that average rate is on an annualized basis. And then I would propose that we consider applying a percentage increase on that annualized basis over and above that and then look at recapturing those lapsed salaries as a possible idea. Whether it's 20 or 25% over the average that we say that we're going to fund.
I'm just making sure the manager's understanding the request.
Oh, no, I understand. I'm just trying to provide, some of the context. So we will, we will have to have a conversation about the annual adjustment too, because that is built on the back of the vacant positions. Because what you will have to do is we have to talk about that as we go through it. We have to do a calculation, okay? So whatever the attrition rate that I got what you're saying, but it will, we have to do a different calculation, make sure whatever the recommended salary adjustment is.
So are we capturing the request from Commissioner?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Commissioner Adams?
I guess, just because I heard it, but I'm not sure. So even though they're vacant in social services, we still get the 50%?
No.
Okay.
No, we don't get the 50%, but we have them there.
Unless it's filled.
Unless it's filled.
Okay.
And so,
Just wanted to make sure.
the bigger, like I said, though, that conversation has been had over the last 2 years. And trying not to impact those two departments. Even though they do kind of have, for lack of a better term, a revolving door, I understand the issues that they're having because the work they do is difficult, both sheriff and DSS.
Commissioner Adams, anything else?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm missing something. To me, it's a math exercise. A lapsed salary is a reversion to fund balance, right?
Yes.
Okay. And a reversion to fund balance is a rebudgetable amount of fund balance.
Correct.
Maybe I'm getting old like, oh, she's gone. Sorry. Getting late. Am I missing something, or would lapsed salaries not be a place to find money that we need for this budget, not next year's budget, which is where it's going to end up if it...
The lapsed salaries are tied to positions, and the only way we would have that is if we eliminated the positions. We would have to keep the positions funded and then take the lapsed salaries away. As soon as they start filling positions, that lapsed salary goes down. And we won't have the ability to use lapsed salaries to fund other things. So we would have to keep, let me finish this one. We would have to keep positions vacant in order to use that lapsed salaries for the budget. So we could, let's say the sheriff had a hiring fair, and he currently has, for lack of a better number, he has 100 positions, and we use that lapsed salaries, because the majority of it is generated from sheriff and DSS, the ability to do that would be gone. Or we would have to use fund balance either way. I understand your point.
Yeah, okay, I haven't seen a meeting go by that we didn't have budget amendments. You have something?
Okay, you're talking on the FY25 budget, whatever's lapsed salaries does fall into fund balance. That's what you're talking about, correct, Commissioner Fairclough?
Exactly.
Okay, then let's remember, that falls into fund balance, and then anything that's over that percentage of 15% gets transferred over to the capital investment fund to help fund your projects. I just want to put that out there.
I'm preempting that reversion by using that to fund current expenditures. Am I not? I mean,
I got you.
it's math, right?
25 or 26? So you're saying 20, no,
Yeah.
you're saying 25 lap salaries that got moved into, we've already moved that.
But I'm using what's going to fall into 27.
I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you.
Let's be clear, Commissioner Fairclough, to make sure we all understand what you're asking, because I think I follow your logic.
I'm asking what Henry's asking.
I know, but go ahead.
Okay. In other words, in order to behoove that constituency I was talking about a while ago, we need to find some current expense money, and I think, unless I'm convinced otherwise, lap salaries are a good place to look. So, again, we can, you said, as you said, we can have a conversation about it.
I understand exactly where you're going. I understand where we can get it from. If you say lap salaries, I got it.
Commissioner Tyson?
I think I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make sure, I'm not suggesting we eliminate all vacancies.
No, I understand that. I understand that. No, I didn't take it that way, but I understand the methodology. I mean, yeah.
So
let me say it this way, Chairman. Transitive theory of mathematics: if A is equal to B, B is equal to C, A has to equal C. It's just a flip in the numbers at this point. And so if we're not going to raise the tax rate, we got to find the money. There's a flip of a number, and if it's lap salaries, then there's fund balance.
So then my question to that is what was that FY25 lap salary that reverted to the fund balance?
And we had to go back, but it was almost 6 million, roughly, gross 6 million.
FY25 has not been done.
Not FY25, FY24.
I got it.
So let me ask this way. The lap salary that we're using to move to the fund balance, what is that dollar amount?
Can someone pull?
Right now, it's $8.5 million for this fiscal year.
Can someone pull?
We do it every month. The Gaffney just sent it to me. Right now, current to this fiscal year, I think it's $8.5 million.
For the current fiscal year?
For the current fiscal year that we...
You do it every quarter?
No, we do it every month, after every pay period.
Can you tell me on average what 24 was for the area for?
And I think 24, it should give you an actual amount, but 24 was actually about $6 million, if I remember correctly, because we had an extra payroll, because when we did the one-time stipend, that equated to one payroll. Each payroll is approximately $6 million. When you add the benefits onto it, it becomes about $6.7 million.
Okay, I'm just looking for one number.
Every payroll?
Well, I mean, after we do net reimbursements and everything, it's about $6 million. That's the number.
$6 million for what time period?
2024, but they're going to verify it for you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I got them. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Calculation that got transferred to the capital investment.
Hey. So we'll get that number, and we'll go ahead and move on. Commissioner Tyson, did you have something else?
Yeah, so I think I understand, and I think Ms. Shaw can help me. I appreciate you sending me this information.
I sent it to all the board.
We all did. I did look at it. No, actually, I wasn't trying to. So, like in your 5-year comparison you sent over to me, in the FY25, the total FTEs that we funded for the sheriff's office, for example, was 621. If I look at this chart correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the FTEs that is actual to date for 2025 would be 328. Is that correct?
I'd have to have them verify. If it's on there, we've checked it, and yes.
Okay, so that would be roughly half with just easy numbers, a little more than half of what we funded in this budget is actually the current FTEs at the sheriff's office.
We funded 100%, except for 20, we did not fund 20 detention center officer positions. So on what's sitting there is the amount of positions that's been funded, amount of positions.
So the 621 would be the amount of positions that were budgeted. And if I look at this comparison spreadsheet, the 328 is the actual, it's right there. FTEs, 328.
That's the 28 here, and then scroll on over.
So that was the sheriff's.
That was just the sheriff's office.
Yes.
There, and then you got the detention center.
Right.
There,
It's
yeah,
separate.
and Roxy, and then.
I got you. So
the
you would add-
resource officer. In the previous years, we did not have that separated out. So that's the reason why that's at the bottom of the sheet. And then for FY '25 and '24, we've started separating it.
I got you. So I would need to add the 328 to the 258.
Yes.
And then subtract that, or subtract the 621 from that number.
And then the school resource officers, everything with the sheriff's office.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you,
And
Michelle.
in the
helps.
adopted book, we have to reconcile that as part of the award. And so if there's any discrepancies in the FY '25 book, that there should be an explanation as to why.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, any other questions on this piece? We've got one takeaway. Michelle, couple other questions from me. Just to the vacant, we fund at 100% of payroll of all our positions. The vacant positions, we don't fund our benefits and COLA.
We fund 100% of salaries and benefits. If there is a potential COLA in the 401K, we have backed that on the back of vacancies.
But the benefits, the health, the benefit pieces in there.
Yes, the benefit piece, as far as the employees' benefits, the employers, the 401K, the workers' comp, the FICA, the insurance, that piece, yes, sir.
So my question goes, then, if we, using what Commissioner Tyson talked about, that if we don't fund the positions, if we lower that, does that impact our insurance?
Yes, we could possibly have to bring back a budget revision because we budget the insurance fund on, and Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, on the budget, the number of budgeted positions. And then, so if we unfund those, that's taken away because the general fund will not be contributing $10,850 per position is what we're currently being funded.
So if we look at it in a way, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. No, I wait.
So if we look at it in a way that basically reduces what we fund against the vacancies, then we're going to have to also look at a dollar amount for the insurance that's impacted to offset that. But if we look at it the way Commissioner Fairclough looked at it, it's a lump sum for the previous year.
It's a lump sum, and it's apples and oranges. And what I'm saying that is, let's say if we wanted to, and I'm not advocating one way or the other when I give out these numbers, but let's just say 2 cents was taken off, and it would have to be the lapsed salaries from the previous fiscal year in order to achieve that objective. And then that's how you would come down on the rate, because you would be using fund balance to have that rate come down, because you'll be using the salaries or the vacant salaries that have dropped down from the last fiscal year.
But that also means we're reducing our capital investment fund.
Not necessarily, because we've already done the transfer. This would be anything, once we do the 15% over, this is the remaining amount. And so that piece would be the amount that we would take, we could always modify. Well, you all can always modify that, but we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We're using the fund balance that has not been moved.
Gotcha.
That's left over, the savings account left over.
Ms. Shaw?
My staff has that figure for 2024 for the lap salaries. Ashley, would you like to give them that figure?
Yes, ma'am. It's $9,694,796.
So that did fall back.
Can you repeat that one more time?
One more time.
$9,694,796.
Off of me, there, county manager.
I know. I mean, look, I did have a couple of shots today, so,
Ms. Shaw,
What?
Ms. Shaw, my last question is, so do we currently have ARP-funded positions as part of our personnel?
Yes.
As part of these? And so how long is that ARP funding? At some point, it's going to have to revert back to general fund dollars. So how many positions and what's the time frame?
There's four positions, 3 are funded.
4 positions, 3 are funded.
Is that correct, Ty?
That's correct.
And how long will that last time?
On December 31st, 2026.
So then those positions, because they're ARP positions, would drop off. So next year, we would not see those positions.
That is correct.
unless we do something different.
That's the positions, not the employees, you know, because if there's positions open.
Okay. So we have a couple takeaways on the personnel. Is everybody comfortable with the takeaways on the personnel and compensation?
Want me to go through this slide right quick?
If you'd like to go through it real quick. I'd said 15 minutes for Ms.
Okay, that's
Council,
fine. I
but
can.
Commissioner Adams, did you have something?
And I guess, I should know this. You never know. So we move money over into the CIP. And how much is that, I guess?
It's about $12 million a year.
It was 15.
Yeah, average 12, 15.
Okay. And that's based on,
The end of the year fund balance, excess fund balance.
is it a percentage or is just?
Anything in excess of 15%.
Okay, so this board could change that percentage to 14% and generate those funds.
Correct.
I mean, that's another option, is, I guess, I don't know if that 15% was probably done before I was here. I don't know how we got to that 15%. But if that's an arbitrary number on 15%, you know, that's a way that you don't mess with the tax rate, I guess, is what I'm saying. I don't know that I'm just putting that out there as that can change.
But that deals with our capital, so there would be a reduction in that.
Of what goes over, but it wouldn't reduce the capital, it wouldn't reduce what's in there, it just reduces what you put in there.
Yeah.
So it reduces our pay-as-you-go capacity.
I was going to kind of answer that question. We had a guideline at one time, and I don't know if we still got it. The LGC recommended 8%. Is that still in use? Or they changed that?
Well, they changed it. You have to be in the same fund balance area with your peer group. And so whatever the average fund balance is, you can't follow below that for your peer group now.
We don't know that till everybody publishes a financial statement, do we? Or how do we know?
Well, it comes out in February every year when they do the cash analysis per your population group.
So where are we?
I have to go back and look at the memo from the LGC.
Well, okay, when we did that, though, it was 8%.
Yeah, it was 8%. It's still 8%. The lowest you can go is 8%.
Right, that was the recommended lowest you could go, and then we wanted to be somewhere above that. So you are correct, it is an arbitrary number, but it's higher than the base recommended.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. That fund balance is the fund balance. I thought this was what was over that went into the capital. So we're not talking about the fund balance. The fund balance stays the fund balance. I'm not messing with the fund balance.
You're talking about that, yeah.
This is the amount above that we put over into this fund.
Yeah, that was the board's decision, but we also recommended keeping a percentage of unassigned, it would not, that's the
Yes,
percent.
the unassigned that is recommended that we keep is 12%.
At 12%, that's what we're saying.
And I'm not saying move that.
Yeah, and that's a month and a half.
Right. I'm sorry.
I got two quick tangential questions, and I don't have it in front of me. Can you tell me what the amount of, in your recommended budget, what was the amount of appropriated fund balance in the general fund?
Zero, except for the health department.
Okay, so
It was in the health department is actually their Medicaid funding, fund balance, so it's a restricted fund
Okay,
balance.
so
So
you
unassigned
recommended-
fund balance, we didn't use any of it.
Okay, zero recommended fund balance, okay. And the other question was, what's our total taxable values at 37.8 or something like that? Or did it change?
37.7.
37.7 billion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was just two numbers I didn't have on top of it.
But now remember, we got appeals, and of 2.4 that were
Right.
7%. Okay.
Commissioner Fairclough, anything else?
Yeah, I'm good.
Commissioner Adams?
No, I was just making sure.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, so that takes us through personnel, compensation, and benefits. Does that take us through that as well?
Was
Unless
there-
you're going to go through the deck?
I was just,
I
I
think we
mean, was
just
there any, was
moved
there?
into the questions.
Yes. Was there any questions on any positions or anything that was not funded or was funded? Let me just put that out there, because that was just part of the compensation piece.
Good. Commissioner Adams?
I'm just trying to, so you said, we're not finished with all the 7, are we?
We've gone through proposed positions. We've
Right.
not gone through, we've gone through vacancies.
Right.
Proposed compensation adjustments. We've gone through that? Yes.
We did, 'cause, is that the COLA?
Yes, sir.
Well, we ain't through that.
Well, I didn't think so. There we go. Let's walk through that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll make it to 10.
I got you.
Okay. Our employees are our most valuable investment in delivering high-quality services to the citizens of Cumberland County. As such, a 2.5% cost of living adjustment is recommended for the fiscal year 2026, totaling approximately $4.2 million. In recent years, COLA adjustments have included 4% increases for fiscal year 23 and 24, 2% increases for 22 and 20, and one-time stipends issued in FY 2021 and the fall of 2025. The COLA for FY 2026 is primarily funded through the salary savings generated by vacant positions.
By his vacant position.
Any other questions on that slide?
Repeat how those COLAs are funded?
On the back of vacancies.
No salary.
Wait a minute, let me, the reason, and yesterday I kind of said this, the reason why our fund balance increases is because we typically don't spend all the money that's budgeted, especially operations. So although fund balance is salary savings, we do that based on the vacant salaries and things, salary savings, Also, part of that fund balance that falls is because we typically don't spend no more than 96% of the budgeted expenses, because departments have bought in to, look, let's don't spend money on paper and pens and stuff because we don't use that. We need to use that to use compensation, because making sure in that bottom line in the fund balance, so we have money to do things like this for employees. Look at the 401k and things. We use salary and benefits mostly for these things, but overall, the net change in fund balance helps fund that.
Commissioner Adams?
So, to this board, when we did 2025 and we did that one-time stipend, was because we did that salary adjustment in 24, and we told the employees kind of that we would do that one-time stipend
Yeah, because we wanted to make sure that we had the salaries right size for 2024 after the salary, the compensation study, because it was such a big bang, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't miss, anybody didn't fall through the cracks, we didn't have any major issues, so we came back and did that one-time stipend. And then, like I said, we know that based on what we're going to have is vacant positions, salary savings, whatever you want to call it, we can basically use 2.5. But if we're doing it in arrears, using that arrears fund balance, I still think we can, moving forward for this first year, we can use it, not have an impact on this.
And, I'm just listening to the, I know that inflation is about 2.4%, could be higher, you never know where we are. So at 2.4 and you got 2.5, you're just breaking even for the employees. And you look at that, and there was a impact, and we heard it this morning from the health insurance on top of what they had to pay. I honestly believe that we ought to at least do 4% on the COLA for the employees, but I just throw that out to the board. I just think that we talk about the value that they add to us. We heard it this morning. Those folk really like working here. Plus, we want to keep some of them and keep the ones coming. So that would be, I don't know where everybody else is, but I would think we should at least look at doing 4% for that COLA.
So to that point, is there a calculation that's easy to get at? Like what's 0.5 of
Can someone
of
on my,
COLA?
Gaffney's getting it.
That way, if we go to 3, if you give us a 0.5, we can do it in round numbers.
It'd be 1/5 of that 42 if you could do that.
And I didn't get a chance to come this morning, but I would just like to say, and hopefully all the employees that are tuned in, they do a great job for us. I mean, literally, they do a great job. Just like the tax department this year with revow. I mean, they handle that real smoothly. All our buildings are always clean. DSS, the cases they have to deal with, health department, the list goes on and on. So I mean, anything we can do for employees, I'm always, and that's like the sheriff department, and then I know the struggle that they have. DSS, the struggle they have. So I just like to say to all employees, they do a great job for us and stuff.
Gaffney, do you have that number?
That's just, I think,
Yes, ma'am.
99.4, that's all.
$6,849,700.
I was talking.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
$6,849,711.
And that's based on a 4% COLA?
4%, yes, ma'am.
6 point what? 6.4.
I got 6,849,811.
So 6.8.
That's the 4. That's at the 4.
That's at 4.
That's a 4%.
So 6.8, so additional $2 million.
Yeah, probably another $2 million.
And I was going to say the same thing that Commissioner Adams did, but I was going to say while you were out having a couple of shots, that's what the employees were telling us.
I wouldn't have those type of shots.
It's late, we can laugh.
We're getting there. So, anybody else? So we want to look at a scenario of board. We want to look at a scenario of 4% COLA.
Thank you, board.
How does that compare regionally to across other counties that are contiguous?
That's a great question.
As the same way that the school board looks at the supplement.
There was a survey put out by the
Well, what we just did is.
NCACC, and I believe the southern region where we are was an average of 3%. I'll just say an average. There was a survey that was done by the NCACC.
Can't imagine what's the city doing?
City is,
It's 4% of the midpoint.
yes.
I'm still trying to calculate that. That's I'll leave it there.
Okay, so based on that, then we'd be a percentage above the average. Yeah. Good. Okay. Next, any other questions on compensation and benefit? We're almost there. We'll go ahead and knock out the rest of this and then break. Commissioner Patel.
Got one quick question. When we look at all of our employees in aggregate, what's the turnover rate annually on average, and then what does that cost us in rehiring? And the reason I'm asking, because this morning, someone told us, it was about 160% of the cost to get someone, if someone left after, 15, 20 years of working, then the loss of that knowledge or institutional knowledge was about, I think she equated to about 160% of the base of what it would start to get them back to the point where they'd be equal to their predecessor. So is there a way to look at that number and tie it to the COLA?
That's generally when we have somebody that leaves with that amount of experience, they're retiring. And so they've been with the organization a while. You generally don't have employees that have that years of experience. And at that range, I would say we have to calculate it up, but I think most of our employees leave, when they do leave, within 5 years. And so the turnover rate is probably, or I guess the cost of turnover is probably 75% of whatever their salary is. Because it takes you, when somebody leaves, it takes you at least 3 months to recruit. And so if you take a quarter off of it, it's like, take a quarter off of it, it's 75% of that person's salary. If they're in that 1 to 5, it would be about 160 if they have more than 10 to 15 years, because you are losing the skill, knowledge, and experience. I would agree with that.
Commissioner.
And Commissioner Patel is a great question, but, I think that the question, because different departments, like if you're in the sheriff's department and you do training, that upfront cost is so much more than trying to retain them. I guess that's what you were getting to. So for different departments, it's a little bit, that's the issue, is that certain departments, it has that. It doesn't have to be 15 years, but what you have to put in to get somebody trained and up and running and out on the street is going to be variation by different departments, and whether you can break that down different departments, that would be, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that's what you said.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Oh, you have a...
Mr. Ty pulled up the average for the reasons for the COLA.
Okay.
So for the eastern part of the state was 3%, the middle of the state 3.3, and then the western part 3.1.
And I was going off our region of 3%.
I don't forgot too many numbers today.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Additional and updated staff benefits include a 2% increase in the 401 contribution for non-sworn employees, along with a $3,000 salary increase for detention center officers through lieutenants and entry-level sheriff deputies through lieutenants. We also have a tuition assistance program that was established in 2020. The tuition assistance program is being recommended to be raised to the maximum reimbursement to $2,500 for undergraduate studies and $1,500 for graduate studies, with the same budgeted allocation of $50,000. And the reason why, the average usage for tuition assistance from FY 2020 through 2024 was only $6,066, an average of 13 staff members, and it was budgeted at $50,000 a year, and that was at $500 for a tuition reimbursement. If you're going to a 4-year institute, that doesn't even touch it. So we thought that we could invest in our employees this way, but use the same allocated amount to start a trend to see if people take advantage of this.
Commissioner Adams.
Just to ask on is there not a cost to the one with that leadership at East Carolina? Is there a
That is
reimbursement?
about 18,000, that's the leadership.
Is it captured somewhere?
That's in human resources.
Resources,
This
okay.
right here,
Okay.
the employee pays, and then if they pass with a C or above, they get reimbursed. They
Okay.
have to upfront it, they have to get signatures by their department head, submit it, and then after they pass the class, it's done for reimbursement.
Commissioners, questions on compensation and incentives?
And then the only other thing was the 4 hours of community involvement in lieu of the parent involvement for school participation. You could do either or, because we have some employees that their child has aged out, or they don't have any children, and so this is making it more inclusive.
Commissioner Adams.
I guess my question would be, if I wanted to do it, but I had a bunch of kids and I couldn't front that up front, then that's not really a benefit to me. I don't know how you do it, give it up front and then try to get it back, deduct it out of there. But I might want to go, but I don't have that excess cash to pay to go waiting on the reimbursement. I mean, I don't know how to work that out, but that might be why some people don't use it. I mean, you know, if I don't have that in my budget to be able to do it, I heard that this morning, that some folks say we just barely doing what we're doing. You know, it's not a benefit if you can't use it. I've always said that.
Well, I can speak from our staff's position. We've had two that's went in there, and they're saying $500 is not enough.
No, I'm not talking about raising the money.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, if I'm going to Chapel Hill or wherever I'm taking my class, if that class costs me X amount of dollars and I don't have that in my budget, I can't take that class, even though I really want to get that undergraduate degree. So the money, I'm not talking about that part, that's fine. This is a question, I guess, for the board is, do we look at whether it's useful or not, or whether you can use it if you don't have the money up front to be able to do that? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to answer that, but I might want to go get that undergraduate degree, but we can go tell the state $500. But anyway, but if you don't have that in your budget, you can't do it, even though it's going to be reimbursed.
May I ask a question if I said, was financial aid, were you able to apply for financial aid and then go ahead and get that fronted, and then you passed the class, and then you were able to get reimbursement?
I think the question is can it be the other way around, so that, because an employee may not be able to have in their budget capacity to front the $1,500 or whatever the dollar amount is for $2,500 for undergrad, and can it be funded up front? I think that's the question to make it a true benefit. So when I got Commissioner Patel, Fairclough, and Tyson.
My question would be, if we have a grade, well, one, the requirement would be to complete the course and then also have a C or better to get the reimbursement. So I agree with Commissioner Adams, but what's to his point, you know, how, if they don't pass or they don't receive the grade, how do you claw the money back, or is there, I mean, are you know, you write it off?
That's my dilemma too.
Mr. Chairman.
Do it payroll unless they,
I think you have to have them sign something on the
Promissory note.
They didn't meet the requirement, you got it from payroll.
Promissory note.
Your loss would be, your risk would be if they quit it before you begin.
Commissioner Fairclough.
Mr. Chair, I would submit that this conversation is not appropriate to the budget process. Setting the dollar amount is, if we go ahead and approve $50,000, then at that point, once we get that done, then we can figure those things out, because that's the valid point, and there's a way around it. Somebody's doing it, but we don't need to talk about that tonight. We need to talk about the $50,000, and that's it. Fair enough?
Well, yeah, I understand that. But what I'm saying, if it's not a benefit, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. If you're telling me people not using that, I can take that 50 and put it somewhere else. I mean, I can take that $50,000 and put it, if that's not a benefit to people, but anyway. I understand what you're saying.
So at our next meeting, because we're going to have another one, could we get some scenarios on how it could be done the way that it's being requested? And see if there's some best practices out there on how it can be done?
Okay.
And then we can decide whether we do anything. We'll leave the 50th placeholder.
And Ms. Shaw, can we, if you get a chance, can you give us just some statistics on how many students or employees become students and then utilize this incentive program?
I already have that.
Okay, cool.
For 2020, there was 13 staff. For 2021, 16. Is that what you're asking? How many? 16 employees? 2022, 10 staff. 2023, 14 staff. 2024, 11 staff. And that was the average of 13 if you do an average.
I bet that changes if you're paying up front. I bet it's significant.
Yeah, all that is paid up front. We would probably have to get to a situation how the sheriff's office does with their sign-on bonuses. You sign an agreement. If you don't pay it back, take them to court if they leave without paying it back.
So we'll look at staff will give us some scenarios on what that tuition assistance program would look like if it was paid up front. And we'll just leave the 50,000. If we need to adjust that, we can adjust that later. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. One other question, the increase of 401 increase from what to what?
From 2% to 2%, so now we'll be at 4%.
Okay.
For non-sworn employees.
And so how does that compare?
To City of Fayetteville is 4%. I have some documentation that I can send to the board of all the surrounding areas, if that's okay. I can email it out. I've got every county in the state.
Does that get us in that region, the same region we looked at from the COLA? You can send it to us. Let's just do an apples to apples kind of.
Okay.
So we're looking at the compensation and we're moving here, and then the 401K would be here as well. So we're saying that's to 4%. Okay. Other questions on this?
Write that down.
We're
Did
getting
y'all
there.
write that down for me?
Next.
This is a vacancy percentage.
We've talked about it.
Okay. And of course, we did the vacant position, we did divisions by functional areas. And that was it.
And if you can just send out these slides afterwards, that would be great.
Through just what we've covered
through the one
tonight.
we went through.
Okay.
All right, so that takes us up to our item 8, capital investment fund.
School county fund. 106.
Where was that?
I'm sorry. It's 106. It should be the 106. Oh. I'm sorry. I probably left that out.
Yeah, so I think it's a good break point because we said we'd go for 2 hours. It's 10 o'clock unless everybody wants to keep pushing. So I think it's a good break point. So we've got, as we look to still cover board, we've got the 106 county fund, county school fund, which Commissioner Tyson, that's the piece that we were looking at. You've got the capital investment fund in the areas there, the 5 areas there. We still have the debt model, the special funds, and the community funding.
That's correct.
We'll have Andrea update the agenda for these. We'll send that out for our next scheduled meeting on Tuesday, June 10th at 5:30. I would ask you if you've got questions on these areas, go ahead and send them in advance because it'll make us move through these meetings a little bit. We can probably get the answers back ahead of time. We'll be able to move through that. We'll be able to move through that meeting a little bit better. And then on the community funding, we know that the staff's made a recommendation. That's really where we're going to have a discussion. Just ask that we are prepared to have that conversation around community funding as well.
I just let you know, Mr. Vaught sent the COLA survey from the Association of County Commissions.
So, board, does that meet everybody's everybody comfortable with that direction? So we've got one, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Shaw, we've got 106 to cover county school fund, capital investment fund, debt model, and do a priority review of that debt model, special funds and enterprise funds, and community funding.
That's
And then any additional requests that the commissioners have that we want to, as I call them, scenarios. We've already listed a couple of those, but if there's any other questions that we may not have covered, I would ask that you send those in so that we can have them in a discussion in this meeting. The intent would be to get through these items, have any other discussions or adjustments that the commissioners would like to see, and then come back at that 12th meeting and finalize anything. Commissioner Adams.
Mr. Chairman, just if it's possible, because I know we made some recommendations tonight, how much that, I guess, how much would we have spent on top of what?
I think once we get through all this, because if we make the changes in 8, 9, 10, and 11, it's going to impact it. So I think we get all our changes, and on that 10th meeting,
we go back.
We go back and kind of calculate that, and then on the 12th meeting, we're really laying out, this is what it looks like, and we're making a determination on any changes, whether it's fund balance, whether it's tax rates, whether it's line items, depending.
I just wonder how much more I had to spend.
How much?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Patel, that's great.
Anybody else? And again, I encourage you, if you have questions or, again, scenarios or those types of things, if you can push those in so that we can have as much of that information. If there's a request or something you want to change, like what I said on the FTCC side, let's go ahead and get that in so we'll have a good baseline of how we're looking so we can get closer to a final budget that we can work through. Vice Chairwoman, did you have anything?
She's asleep.
No, I'm not sleep going.
That was not me. Wait a minute now. Hold on, Ms. Jones, Commissioner Jones, that was not me.
I'm not sleep.
That's it. That was Commissioner.
I'm a night owl. I'm
This is
busy up
Commissioner
late.
Fairclough. Don't get me in trouble.
I'm not sleep.
I'm tired, man. I ain't that tired.
I'm still up. I'm a night owl.
All right, hearing nothing, there's no other items of business. Our next meeting will be as scheduled, June 10th at 5:30, room 564, on the items that we've covered. Madam Clerk, if you'll just make sure we send that out. And hearing nothing else, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
And we're adjourned.